Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to another review. We are back, and today we are looking at Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. And yeah, this is a game that have been fairly interesting since this is another fallout of the Japanese game industry and another classic director and visionary going to Kickstarter to try to get his game funded, and at time we are dealing with a somewhat spiritual successor to Symphony of the Night or any of the Castlevania games on the Game Boy Advance, so on and so on. So that begs the question, since so many Kickstarters have been a complete failure, will Bloodstained be the one that actually will be great? Let's see in the review, shall we?
Bloodstained.
So Bloodstained picks up pretty much 10 years after the semi-apocalypse, kinda, thanks to a whole bunch of alchemists who ended up kind of falling out of favor with most of humanity since people started moving away from religion and more so into mechanical stuff. And so the alchemists decided to pretty much open a gateway to unleash demons to guilt everybody back into believing in the church, and by doing so they created the shard binders that could use the power of demon, and by killing them unlock gates to let demon flood on in. And here we are 10 years later with only 2 remaining, one who seemed to just vanish and another one who been sleeping for over a decade. But as she awakened, she realized the only other shard binders she know of have appeared and seem to have become evil, corrupted, whatever you want to call it, and opened a gateway inside of a giant castle, and she and her alchemist friends set up to try to stop him and hopefully destroy him and the demons that lie in his castle. And the story from there get more and more deeper as you learn more and more about the universe, with more and more characters getting introduced. And the story itself is pretty straightforward, but does have a few twists here and there and a few things to keep the story interested. Outside of that, since this is a Metroidvania, I bet a whole lot of backtracking with a whole lot of items and any more bosses and secret bosses gather about to unlock new powers. And then when we introduce the shard system, since this system is introduced by defeating enemies, and certain enemies have a percentage to drop a shard. Any shard you collect can be used as either a passive, a weapon, a summon ability. The shard system itself is actually pretty great overall, with a few little drawbacks here. The main drawback with the shard system is not realizing what exactly is needed and what is optional here. The problem here is over 100 shards, and a handful of them you do get from bosses and little mini bosses scattered about. The problem that comes from this is certain shards are actually used to make your way through the environment, such as picking up items, turning into light, teleporting, so on and so on here. But the thing is the shards are not separated out in a way that make it easy or make sense to what shard do what. Since the shard system is literally broken up into 4 categories, and any of these shards you get that is actually used for getting around the environment and pushing the story, it kind of gather into whatever category they supposedly fit into. The issue here is once you start collecting shards, and even more so during the inner part of the game, you start getting problems of going to hundreds of shards, trying your best to actually find the one you need to get around the environment. The game itself tried to make this a little more easier by having you set favorites and setting up macros as well. The issue with that is you manually gotta do so, and if you get a shard in passing without realizing it's something you truly need for area, it can kind of get lost in the shuffle, and then you will lose a lot of time sitting there reading through all your shards and all the information on what they do. And the macro system doesn't really help either here, since the macro system actually take everything on your character at any point, so weapon, armor, shards, whatever it might be, and save it to a hotkey. The problem is that trying to update the hotkey is a little convoluted, and in some way will have issues of accidentally overriding certain macros, and in return, outside of a handful of occasions, the macro system is not exactly the best and doesn't really help at all too much here other than in frustration. And then the only other issue that the game have is elite playing this on the Nintendo Switch. Some issue kind of have come up with the game crashing multiple times on me, which is very noticeable since I have never had a Nintendo game crash on me before. So that was a fourth-time experience of that, which is a little disheartening, especially with the game being save only and no checkpoints. So I bet to save often, especially on Nintendo Switch. I believe this is a problem also on other console versions, but at the time of that video, I don't know if they have been patched out or anything. The only other issue that the Nintendo Switch have is in one or two areas where the load time is a little much, but from my understanding, it used to be way worse. Now it's just pretty much 2 low screens, and that is pretty much about it. So it's a little more of a nuisance than anything. Other than that, it's not really a lot of technical problem here at all on the Nintendo Switch version. Don't get me wrong, you see a little downgrades here and there, especially in some of the character model once you play it. But overall, this is a pretty good port as of now. Outside of the issues and talking about the actual port itself, the game itself as a Metroidvania begs the question, is it actually fun to backtrack? Is it fun collecting the items? And the answer is yes. This game captures that vibe of Symphony of the Night, Circle of the Moon style Castlevania game to the T. The gameplay is pretty spot on with the ability of making new items, getting a special ability from bosses, and overall just being a fun Metroidvania that really do drive you to try to complete everything and unlock everything. And on top of that, we do have some side missions toward in that you can take from NPCs for hunting monsters, looking for certain items, making certain food, farming. This have a decent amount of stuff toward in as side activity. The only thing iffy about these side activity, every once in a while they do cross over into what you need to do to move the story forward, which in return kinda sometimes become very vague, not realizing what quests actually will help you move forward and what one will just give you an item. And in return, this is where some of the getting stuck problems start coming in. Mainly because it's just confusing on what you gotta do sometimes. And the quests don't exactly help. I get the whole trying to make the game a little more, I get immersive away from just getting a power up and going to a new area. But sometimes it can kind of drag it down, and then sometimes it's not so bad. It's just a little all over the place here. But at the end of the day here, anyway, all is shortcoming and irritation and some port issue. This game is still great, and it is a refreshing push forward a little bit for the Castlevania style Metroidvania with the quests, with the crafting, with the collecting of shards, and overall, Bloodstained Symphony of the Night, it's pretty much everything I wanted, and honestly, got that Symphony of the Night vibe a lot more than I was expecting, any more so with the music being very, very Symphony of the Night and very good on top of that. And honestly, I can't stop playing this game. It truly do desire a 100% playthrough. And honestly, I'm looking forward to playing this game again over on the PS4 Xbox One to see how them ports are appealed to the Nintendo Switch. But with that, anyway, all the issues I might have, I fully recommend Bloodstained Ritual tonight, especially if you are a fan of Metroidvanias. And with that, I give it a 4 out of 5.
Come, Gregory. We're leaving.
Debo, wait!